Welcome to Schweitzer Drive, a podcast where we explore what goes on between the generation of electricity and the light switch. Join Dave Whitehead as he interviews the entrepreneurs, innovators, and experts who are inventing the future of electric power.
I'm Diane Maceri, Supply Chain Director at Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories. I'm sitting in for Dave Whitehead, and I'm here to talk about supply chain topics, the power of strong partnerships. So with the unprecedented supply chain disruptions that we've had over the past few years, there are many companies that are looking to move their supply chains closer so that they can avoid the risk that is out there that we experience. So today, I'm talking about the challenges of removing links from the supply chain with Tyler Gould and Tom Schrader, who recently teamed up on a project with SEL to show that manufacturing can be done in the U.S. and it can be done in a cost-effective way. Tyler Gould is a senior electronic sales engineer at Phoenix Contact, a technology company providing solutions that connect, distribute, and control power and data flows in nearly all industrial settings. Tyler manages customer and distributor relationships, including managing commercial needs and providing technical expertise. He has been in the electronics industry for 18 years. His career started at TTI, which is a distributor, where he spent 9 years as an inside salesperson and 4 years as a field salesperson. Tom Schrader is the president of Interconnect Sales, a franchise specialist distributor focused on electromechanical components. A lifelong interest in electricity and electronics led Tom to begin his career in electronics distribution in 1987 as a warehouse manager while attending the University of Washington, pursuing a BS in economics. He joined Interconnect Sales in 1996, where he provided field engineering support to key customers, managed relationships with manufacturers, and helped develop the strategies and focus that guide the company today. He became a majority shareholder of the company and president in 2011. Well, Tom and Tyler, welcome, and thanks for taking the time today on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Before we jump in, I'd like to hear from each of you a little more about your company and how you support customers like SEL.
Yeah, so I'm Tyler Gould. I work with company Phoenix Contact. We're a German company based in Blomberg. Still family owned. Just last year we celebrated our 100th anniversary. And, the division that I work with, we specialize in the electronics side of our business. So we design and manufacture components and solutions that enable our customers and our partners to build their products and their systems. And as a field sales engineer, I get to work hand in hand with my customers. And, like you mentioned, on a technical expertise. So being able to help them with their designs and meet their design objectives. And then at the same time, following that all the way through to the commercial needs. So, helping them with their supply chain and, meeting the price needs, also coordinating that through our channel partners and distributors.
That's great. Well, congratulations on the 100 years. That's amazing.
Thank you very much. It's a special time for the company.
I'm Tom Schrader, and Interconnect Sales, as Diane said, is a franchise distributor. In our core function, we buy in large volume from manufacturers like Phoenix Contact and sell in smaller, more scheduled volumes to customers like SEL. But part of what makes us different in how we go to market is we provide a very high degree of technical engineering experience and expertise to our customers and participate in their designs. So our value goes much beyond just simply providing components on a certain date at a certain price. We operate intentionally from a limited line card, so we're able to bring a higher level of trust and collaboration to our factories. And we also use that to connect them with a more intimate understanding of our customers, their challenges, the opportunities, and the solutions that they need to be able to succeed. We're focused on customers in the Pacific Northwest, like Schweitzer Engineering, and part of that focus includes customers who build their own product.
SEL has always worked to source our components close to our factories. In fact, Dr. Schweitzer, from the beginning of the company, has said he'd like the parts to always come in on a truck, which means, within our North American region. So, however, though, historically, especially on the electronics component side, a lot of the components are made overseas. And with the recent supply chain challenges and the geopolitical landscape that's happening right now, it has reinvigorated a commitment to bring components closer to home, not only for SEL, but a lot of other companies. And we have a project here at SEL, starting with our 2022 partnership conference. We really began to share with our supplier partners that we wanted to take a strong effort to bring those components closer to home, knowing that there were components out there that would be a challenge, but we kind of threw that challenge out there. In fact, Tom likes to say it's a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. So, well, each of you, both Tom and Tyler here, we talk about your initial thoughts when we started talking about this goal with you and what we were trying to do.
So I think the biggest initial challenge was colleagues who said it couldn't be done. In the 30 years or more in this industry, I don't think myself or many of us have seen component manufacturing move back to the United States.
It's a mindset change, isn't it?
It really is. We were decades into companies improving their profitability by moving manufacturing to lower cost markets instead of looking at investing in automation or additive manufacturing or ways they could improve a product design in order to keep manufacturing closer to their customers. So this is a value I've known at SEL for a very long time and have been looking for ways that we could spark a project to achieve a big goal like this. Kind of a dare, right? I've never seen this done. Maybe Tyler and I can be the team that can actually do it.
Hey, Tyler, what were your thoughts?
Well, I remember when the spark initially happened, and I remember calling Tom and saying, "Hey, I think there's an opportunity for us to work together on something with Schweitzer here, and really help accomplish this priority and this goal." And I still remember Tom's response, and his initial response is, "Are you sure?" Because and it's not because he doubted that. I think that he doubted it was possible or that we could accomplish it. It was that really, I think, to assess my how invested I was in being able to make it successful. Because honestly, even though I brought it up, it was scary. The idea of it was scary. And, part of the reason I say that is because we were looking at something that was really big, and we were looking at doing something that Phoenix Contact hadn't done, bringing this type of manufacturing to the U.S. in this way. And, I knew it was a great opportunity for us to work together, but it was risky. Success was going to be a true win-win situation for both companies. But, if we failed at doing this, would we ultimately jeopardize a tremendous partnership that already existed, right? And then, if I look at it personally as a professional, what kind of risk would it have for me in my career if I committed all this resource within our company and then, we went out on a limb and ultimately it wasn't fruitful, right? So what kind of impacts could that have on me? So, and ultimately my role in this was to be able to show that value and show what we could accomplish and ultimately, create the alignment that we needed to have.
I think as we had that first conversation, we were probably in the same place as many other people who said it couldn't be done, right? We had the spark of the idea, but we also knew all the reasons that it had been no for years and years and decades before. No, not for this. No, not for that. What about this? And we had to outline all of those major areas and at least have an idea about how we might be able to get around those or how we might be able to solve that to be able to push a product forward. The last thing we wanted to do was come to a great partner with, "Hey, we have this idea, but we're not sure we can bring it off."
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I think it's an interesting perspective that you had, Tyler, of not only wasting your company's resources or starting and not being able to be successful, but even about your personal career, the risk there. So that was an interesting perspective. The team at Phoenix had also been working on an objective to get closer to customers in the United States. So how did this project align with that initiative?
Yeah, at around this time back in 22, Phoenix Contact had just announced internally, our initiative to expand manufacturing capabilities in the U.S. And that we would be investing in plastics molding and assembly, which are really two critical parts or portions of the manufacturing process for the connectors that we've worked on for this project. And that was really where the alignment began and ended. So we were really focused on our standard highest volume products and being able to diversify our manufacturing footprint to better meet, the needs of our regional customers. And so that was what all of the planning was built around.
And just to put this in perspective, we were talking about around 100 part numbers, 100 connectors that SEL purchases, which, and they're not high volume. They're more maybe low to mid volume, high mix, just to put this into perspective.
Definitely high mix and maybe not a standard connector among them.
They're all special in their own way.
So more
not
reason.
That kind of special.
More reason to have a BHAG here, right?
Exactly.
So what were some of the biggest obstacles? I'd like to hear from each of you. What were some of the biggest obstacles that you each faced?
So I think the biggest obstacle was really, there were several that we encountered over the course of the project, and it's still in motion right now, right? We're implementing that project, but the largest one was really that misalignment that I mentioned, where we were really focused on our largest volume product, and that your product or your needs were very specific, right? So, and there were multiple different aspects to that. So whether it was, the particular plating of a contact or the color or the material that it was made out of. And in one area that in particular that was that presented the largest challenge was the connector style that was preferred in your designs, right? So that was difficult because that wasn't a part of our plan, and that really created a major misalignment. So your largest need, because that connector style happened to be the largest need, was not even a part of what we were looking at investing in. And so we had to find another way, right? And we approached that. We had that come up many times during this as well. Okay, well, let's look at this. Let's find another way. And that was really where our collaboration became really key, because you were using another style of connector that was similar, but it wasn't something that we had in our offering. And when we looked at that a little bit closer, that there was enough similarity to that preferred style that we did have, that it looked feasible to be able to combine those two and use the same assembly process to build them. So that ultimately meant that, okay, now we're adding a whole nother complexity to this project, because we're talking about a ground up development for a product that we haven't been, that wasn't a part of our offering. And really being able to collaborate, and the commitment that SEL was able to make to this project is really what made that possible.
From Interconnect Sales standpoint, I don't have any internal obstacles, but we have a special role where, because we're between a manufacturer and a customer, we sort of have a foot in both camps. I like to say that, when we're talking with a manufacturer, we're the customer's voice in that conversation. And when we're talking with the customer, we're the manufacturer's voice and preferences in that conversation. So the biggest challenge I initially saw was who were going to be our internal champions in each organization. How are we going to recruit them? How are we going to take the priorities that were different at the idea Tyler and I started with, and then align those, get them embedded and invested in a champion in each culture. And then I began to outline all the things that I thought were objections. Again, knowing all the reasons why something can't be done, we have a good talent about putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes. So I started imagining all the things that would be, no, not for this reason, can't do that, definitely can't do that one, and trying to prioritize those in this will be something that we're going to have to get around, and this is something, as opposed to other details, that might be something we could negotiate around. Maybe we could find some middle ground that was different from how something was done in the past.
I like that every no leads to a yes. Gets you closer to the yes.
Or 4 no's leads to a yes.
Well, you know what won't work, so you just keep working on how to get that yes. On the SEL side, I would say one of our biggest hurdles was to make sure that total cost-wise, we weren't adding to our product costs, right? With total costs, that can come in various ways. It could be transportation, it can be tariffs, it can be the cost of the part itself. So that's one of the hurdles we have to look at when we do a project like this.
Yeah, one of the benefits in looking at it like that was there was a point where we were able to identify the ability to consolidate part numbers that were
they had different characteristics.
Yeah, but in the collaboration together, we were able to take a situation where, say, there were 4 different unique part numbers. When we said, hey, if we make the design look like this, we can accomplish all the needs of all 4 of these parts, and therefore we're going to simplify the supply chain by combining all of those. And in some cases, that meant additional opportunities for savings in not having to use specific manufacturing processes or techniques for those other items.
That's good. Yeah. It takes 4 part numbers, have down to 1 part number that we're populating on a circuit board. Yeah.
In all circumstances. Yeah.
That's great.
Absolutely. And a lot of that initial startup and even through the first several phases of the project, Dr. Schweitzer has talked for decades about teaching is selling. That's a value for Schweitzer, that teaching about the product or about the solution or the application or the needs is part of drawing all of our expertise together to get to a better solution. So Tyler and I were doing a lot of that teaching on both sides, teaching Schweitzer about the capability that Phoenix Contact was planning here and the longer time frame that they had in mind before we brought this up. And then also teaching internally at Phoenix about Schweitzer's longer term goals, that this wasn't just a value, but that this was part of a very big strategy that could help really pull us into alignment. Historically, asking a very large manufacturer like Phoenix Contact to stand up manufacturing in a preferred region is kind of a not going to happen suggestion, right? They have their own goals and plans and volumes and automation. It just doesn't lend itself this way. We took the spark of this moment and then really we're teaching in both directions, right, Tyler?
Absolutely.
I guess along with that, Tom, you said your company are uniquely positioned to be the voice of the customer to the manufacturer and the voice of the manufacturer to the customer. What do you do to get those stakeholders all aligned?
It's a little bit of cat herding, I suppose. We spend a lot of time listening. Honestly, that's where a lot of this comes from. We take every opportunity to learn both what a manufacturer says about themselves, but also what their internal operations look like. We're a small, flat organization. I'm speaking of Interconnect Sales, which means we really get to touch a lot of details in a manufacturer's structure, who their stakeholders are, what their priorities are, what their profit picture looks like, what their manufacturing and product development pictures look like. And that helps us self-identify with where their goals are, even if they haven't explicitly shared those goals. And Schweitzer, on the other hand, among all of our customers, is excellent at sharing their goals and their culture. And so we take that to heart. We ask questions. We look at where you're going. We see how you talk to your customers. We see what you tell your customers about where you're going. And that provides the basis for that understanding. And again, we just put ourselves in that role as you. We talk the way you would talk in your voice in those rooms as if they had heard all those things themselves.
Well, and I don't know if you said it before, but your in many cases, you're able to say things as a third party that, maybe I couldn't say to my own company about a customer perspective, or, vice versa, the other direction. You're able to step in and share something from a manufacturer perspective with the customer that maybe the manufacturer couldn't share, right?
That's absolutely true. And we use that understanding to help both parties really see each other differently, and with the goal again of aligning.
Yeah, that's really good. I feel like it's that neutral third party that probably helps in a situation like this.
Mm-hmm. It does. Tyler's right about the things that we can say or the actions that we can take. And, our role is also to plug in the details that maybe a manufacturer needs extra support in a certain area, or a customer needs extra support in a planning area. We see what might be missing for the best alignment, and Interconnect would provide that functionality.
I just want to clarify for everyone what this project entails. We have many parts that are currently manufactured outside of the United States and outside of North America that we would like to bring in. This particular project that Tyler, Tom, and I are talking about is about 100 of our connector part numbers, and working it to bring them from various countries around the world to the U.S. mostly, and some in Mexico. And so I just want to kind of paint that picture that this is 100 components. They have not been built in the U.S. ever. And so that was what was the challenge here, was doing something different and overcoming this state of mind of how different that is. So ironically, we just wrapped up our partnership conference of 2024. So it's 2 years later, right? We threw out this big, hairy, audacious goal 2 years ago. Thank you both for attending the conference, by the way. Can you talk about what you look for in a great business partner? Tyler, do you want to start with that?
Really, it's collaboration and communication. My goal as a professional is to add value in every interaction. And it's really important that you understand what a partner's objectives are and what their needs are. Without that, you can't make valuable suggestions or recommendations or help them with meeting their objectives and needs. And so it's a really important part of a partnership.
Thank you. What about you, Tom?
I think the first quality we look for in good business partners is trust and open communication. We need to be able to agree on what best practices looks like and what done looks like. And we need to have a shared, open, honest communication. Things aren't always easy, but we need to be able to depersonalize that to help all of us better achieve our goals. We're also constantly looking for people who are willing to revisit previous decisions if there's a better way to do something now. And again, that's just part of that open, honest, trusting relationship. Say what you need, mean what you say, and follow through with it, and hold each other accountable and enjoy the journey together, right? We should be more than just partners. We should be friends. And working through hard stuff should be slightly easier because you're working through it with people you enjoy working with.
That was put so much better.
Yeah, that was well said. Thanks, Tom. So on the flip side, Tom, what would you say would hinder a partnership?
I think the biggest hindrance we sometimes see are people that don't follow through with their values. Say they want something, and then we develop a solution around that, and suddenly they want to move in a different direction. So apparently that wasn't really what you wanted. We're constantly checking each other that what you said is what you're delivering, and that we're mutually moving in the same direction. That doesn't mean we can't change direction if the needs change, if the requirements change. But just that the thing that hinders us in most cases is somebody who changes their mind in a bad way or a dishonest way.
Which is interesting to me, because talking about the risk, right, of asking your company to do this, or your personal professional risk in this, ties into that lack of trust that can happen if a company isn't going to stick to that commitment.
It's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Tyler? What do you think could hinder a partnership?
Well, I think it echoes a little bit of what Tom was saying to his his last statement, but a lack of trust is really going to hinder a partnership. Without trust, your information's going to be withheld. You're going to be less invested in each other, and that creates ultimately a competitive relationship where, one company is trying to win over the other, or one party is trying to win over the other. And I think that ultimately leads to, fewer options being on the table and less desire to work together.
I know there's been some lessons learned. And also this project, we're about midway through it. So we're 2 years in. We're in the implementation phase, but the implementation phase is a 2-year full implementation phase. What lessons have you learned? And then if you think of other companies who might be wanting to move their components to the United States, what advice would you give them?
I would say the largest lesson that I learned in this was how critical internal champions are. In this project, we had internal champions both at Phoenix Contact and at Schweitzer. And if it were not for their involvement, we could have not succeeded at this. Each of them were critical in being able to create alignment across different departments within each company. And it was at a level that, even Tom and I together would have not been able to achieve if we didn't have those champions. I guess if I had a piece of advice for someone looking at doing the same thing, is really take a step back and look at the big picture. We did that multiple times in this project. How can let's look at this a different way. How can we make this work? And really using that to identify where the misalignments were, and then thinking creatively about how to bridge that gap where that alignment existed. And then I guess also be persistent. So there might be many days where you wake up and feel like, oh my gosh, this is all going to fall apart. But staying calm and solving each challenge just like it's an opportunity for a small victory.
Tom, what do you think out of your lessons learned and the advice you would give?
I think Tyler highlights a lot of them. I think we have to work through a project like this, or anybody working on a project like this needs to find a way to keep the spirit of the effort front of mind. So as you can imagine, Diane says we're about 2 years through this project. We probably spent most of the first year just trying to outline and find our way around the major obstacles and get consensus from both Phoenix Contact and Schweitzer Engineering that, we had hit enough of the major details that we could move forward. And so at each of those inflection points, we often all take a moment to celebrate frequently together. Hey, we've outlined all these major points. We now have this big project. Let's come together and celebrate that. And so that the spirit of that moment, I try to carry with me through the entire project, because you're going to find more things that are in the way, something that hadn't been anticipated or a new change that needs to happen. And I find we're drawing on that same spirit, trying to keep that in mind to be able to push through the next objection. If we're halfway through the project, maybe we're halfway through all the details we need to work out.
Hopefully we're much further than halfway through the details.
I started making a list when you weren't watching.
You're both making me see how important it is that the company who's asking you as our partner to do this for us, or with us, I should say, is showing our commitment that we're going to stand by it through all of these details and through all of these challenges, because it is something new. And it is something that we all have to kind of have that grit to get through, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you both. Thank you for your perseverance. Thank you for your grit. And thank you for your partnership in taking on this big goal, and excited to see, the final implementation of it.
Well, I just need to say thank you for being so clear in what your objectives and what your needs are, because without that, it wouldn't have been a possibility. And then just like to echo what you said, your commitment, because without that, it would have definitely not happened.
I'd echo the same thank yous and appreciate the opportunity to work with Schweitzer for a lot of years now. And, our open, trusting relationship for you guys to be able to share these concerns, values, opportunities. And then when we can pull the right parties to the table, that you guys are willing to rally the resources and see if there's a way we can do this, as opposed to just, we want something the way we want it. How can we work together? The spirit of working together is always on this campus.
That's great. Great partnership with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for stopping by Schweitzer Drive. Join us again as we learn about, explore, and celebrate electric power. For more information about the show, please visit selinc.com/Schweitzer Drive.